To lead off this edition of Football Fridays at the ECK, I'm pleased to welcome a couple of defensive standouts from the Cotton Bowl team in 2018. Consensus All-American defensive back and current New York Giant Julian Love, and All-American defensive tackle and first-round draft pick of the Los Angeles Chargers, Jerry Tillery. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedules to be with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure being here.
Jerry, you got to get to practice, so we're going to ask you a couple of quick questions so you can go get some work in. Jerry, you guys opened the 2018 season with a big game against Michigan. Game day was in town. It was a night game. You were both top 15 teams. How challenging is it to open your year with a game like that? And what stands out to you about that game a couple years later?
Personally, I prefer it. I think, working all off season to play your rivals in Michigan is a tremendous opportunity, and anybody at Notre Dame in the Notre Dame community can get excited to play Michigan. So working all off season for that game and going out and playing well. We played great defense that night and contain the athletes they have over there. It was a big win for us, and it really set the tone for the type of season we were going to have.
Jerry, arguably the biggest story that year, at least in the regular season, was the quarterback change when Ian Book became the starter in week 4. You guys, of course, played on the other side of the ball, but what's a change like that like for a team?
Well, no matter who's playing quarterback or any position on the offense, I think what's important is us on the defensive side, doing our job and stopping these teams and giving us a chance to be successful. And Ian, was playing well, and he continues to. So everybody was behind him. It was a good, welcome change for us in the locker room.
Jerry, we'll let you go on this. You shared a room with so many of the guys up front that will be counted on to slow down Alabama's offense coming up in the college football playoff. In a game like this, on a stage like this, in a stadium you guys played in back in 2018, what advice would you give them?
Just have fun. We've been doing this for a long time. And to be on such a stage and to be able to perform in front of millions of people is a blessing. And I think they know that, and they're looking forward to competing at a high level.
Jerry Tillery, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Best of luck as you close out the season.
Thank you so much.
And Jerry may have to leave, but we're also lucky enough to welcome in leading tackler from that 2018 team, linebacker Te'von Coney. Te'von, thanks for being here today.
No problem, man. No problem.
Te'von, with you jumping on here, I want to ask you a question. Heading into that 2018 season, Clark Lee was your position coach. He got promoted to defensive coordinator. He, of course, recently was hired as head coach at his alma mater, Vanderbilt, but will be coaching the Irish throughout the playoff, hopefully a couple of games left. Tell us a little bit about Clark Lee and what makes him a good position coach and coordinator.
Clark Lee, he's special. I think what makes him really special is how much he cares. How much he cares about his players. He wants them to succeed, and it's just not about him. And I think that when you have a coach like that, you have someone that you see daily who's around, making sure the guys are focused, making sure guys are being prepared so they can go out there and have the best game they can have. I just think that's just truly important to have a coach around you who not only cares about football, but cares about you as a person as well.
Julian, I want to loop you in here finally. Thanks for your patience. We talked about the Michigan game a little bit with Jerry. Another big one on the schedule that year was the trip to Lane Stadium to take on Virginia Tech. We always hear about how tough that place is to play. So first off, how did it stack up compared to some of the other venues you got to play at? And secondly, what do you remember about your monster showing that night?
Oh, yeah, that was a fun one. That was one that everybody was talking about. We were, pretty excited about. We know they play – was like Enter Sandman, I think, as you go into the stadium, and everybody was talking about the hype of that. And I was excited to go because I wanted to see what that was like. When we were running in, I just kind of looked around and just kind of enjoyed the moment. And I think we all did. And that's why I think we had such a great day. It was like we kind of just embraced it. It wasn't a challenge. It was more of like a spectacle to see, something to cross off your bucket list, if you will. And as it compared to every other game, it was pretty nice for an away game. I always love the home atmosphere a little more, but it was pretty nice for an away game.
Te'von looks like he's away right now, so Julian will continue on. Heading into the Cotton Bowl in 2018, Clemson had some incredible wide receivers: Justin Ross, T. Higgins, Hunter Renfrow, guys you see now in the league. Alabama has not just the best wide receiver in college football in Devontae Smith. He might be the best player in the country, period. As a secondary, as a guy who plays on the back end there, how do you game plan for a team that has as many weapons as Alabama has?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just really keeping the ball in front of you. I mean, you got to eliminate explosive plays. I think, in all of when ND's defensive backs are successful is when we keep the ball in front of us and just tackle. Because he is a talented player. You got to try to limit that in any way you can. You got to stop the run and just stop big plays. I think Coach Lee will emphasize that for sure for them. Because if you can eliminate those, it can really, you got to make them earn it, basically. They got to make them play, the perfect game plan, dink and dunk down the field, and just make them execute. And so I think that's part of it. And when we play those talented receivers, if we would have done a better job at that, I think we would have had a better showing against Clemson all those years ago.
Te'von, I want to ask you about Alabama, but first, when you played at Notre Dame, you were always around the ball. In fact, you're top 10 at Notre Dame in career tackles, and in the past 35 years, only Manti Te'o has more than you. Is there one player, one tackle that stands out to you from that 2018 season or throughout your career?
2018 season? I'll have to go back to 17. 17 was really special for me, man. 18 was like, it was kind of already in the pudding, and you know what I mean? We knew we had a great team, but I think 17 was really good for us all to go out there to have a wonderful year and kind of prove to ourselves and everyone knows that, we were able to come together as a team, as a brotherhood, and, have fun. So I would say we played USC the first snap of the game when I was able to get to Sam Darnold and get the ball out. I just think like that was a moment for me, where I was able to really trust the process of, what Coach Kelly and Coach Lee had told me, like, all that week. And I think when I went out there and I had success that particular game, it just gave me a light that if I continue to just trust the process that the coaches had for me, that, I'll continue to have success. And I think that was like the big turning point for me.
It actually spurred something here. You guys were both on that team in 2016 that really struggled, went 4-8. 2017, you, of course, won 10 games. You started the current stretch of 4 straight years of 10 wins or more. What was the change like between 2016 and 2017? And then, of course, 2018, your final year as well?
Man, I feel like for me, it was just kind of I think it was just leadership. Not to slight any of the leaders we had on that 2016 team. I just think, we had individual success, if you could say. We weren't really bonded in any way. Like in that next year, it wasn't just the guys who were in their last season, the last year, leading us. It was, it was Te'von's class. It was the younger guys. Like, all right, like we got to get this thing together, and that's how we really bonded. And then that just led into 2018. It's like everyone knew each other. Everyone was a leader. Everyone was balling, really. And it was a perfect just culmination of years of just kind of bonding and trying to get better. And so, 2016 was tough for sure. On the field, in the classroom, all around, it was tough. But that led to us being successful.
Te'von, I want to ask you about Alabama. As I said a little bit earlier, Najee Harris is just the latest in a long line of huge, fast, incredibly talented Alabama running backs. As a linebacker, especially one who played in the middle, what are some of the keys to slowing down a back like that?
Well, one, you gotta take pride in it. That's something I always did as a linebacker, and I actually hate that I didn't get a chance to play Alabama while in college because I really wanted to play against the running backs they had. But I just think in general, like the linebacker room, I know Coach Lee is getting those guys ready to just say, hey, we got to set the tone. When we come out, they start the game off running the ball. They have the receivers, but they're going to set the game in the line of scrimmage in the beginning of the game. And I think the linebackers are to come out and, set their pride and say, hey, like we're going to come out and we're going to be a difference maker. We're going to make sure Najee doesn't have 5 touchdowns. I think those guys, especially me, if I was playing, I would have been looking at that game like, hey, I'm taking this personal. I know I have a game plan. I'm going to follow my coach's game plan, but I have to make sure that particular guy right there doesn't be the reason why we lose this game. And I think if the linebackers, which I know they will, come out and make that a focal point that they have to be the reason why, Alabama can't run the ball, I think they'll have much success after that.
I want to wrap up with a look at this year's team and a couple of guys who play the positions that you do. Julian, you were, of course, one of the best cornerbacks in Notre Dame history. Nick McLeod transfers in, doesn't have a ton of an offseason to get used to this system, but ends up being named first team All-ACC. Kyle Hamilton back there gets a ton of publicity. Sean Crawford, a guy who played with you. When you look at this secondary, what do you see, and what are some keys to them to come out with a win against Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. I think I see a lot of experience. Nick, I didn't get a chance to play with him, but he's coming in, as a grad transfer, a guy who's been around the block, who has played some big time ball, and so you feed off of that. I think he brings a certain amount of energy. It's great. Kyle Hamilton, I didn't play with him either, but I knew him coming out, and I actually hosted him when he visited Notre Dame and was deciding between schools. And I just know from a young age, as everyone has seen, he's very mature, experienced, and not afraid to make plays. I think that's huge for a young player, and he's just going to become more successful. And then Sean, Sean, I had a chance to play with. Everyone has had the chance to play with Sean. Sean was literally my mentor my freshman year in terms of getting on the field and learning how to play college ball. And so when you have that much experience, I think you just got to rely on it. Just rely on the ball you've been playing. Just play together, and I think just set the tone. You got to play a physical game. You got to go in there thinking it's going to be a fight, and you got to make it a fight. You got to make the receivers feel it every time they catch the ball. Hopefully they can keep it in front of them and make them feel it. So they don't want to be running the ball. So they don't want to be catching the ball. I think that's the game they're going to have to play, and just really just communicate, just be all on the same page. All lean on each other. I think that's going to be a huge key for the DBs this game.
Te'von, of course, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of the best linebackers in the country, won the Butkus Award, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Between him and the rest of those linebackers, what do you see, and what are they going to have to do to have success against the Crimson Tide?
Keep doing what they're doing, man. I think these guys have done a great job as playing together, and that's something that I've always prided on, especially in linebacking. I had lucky to have a couple of the guys that I played with that I was close with off the field as well. But I think when you have a linebacker, you got to be connected. You got to feel that guy that's supposed to be in that spot without even seeing him. You know what I mean? Knowing that, hey, I've watched from him. I know that when his gap change, he's going to be in that gap. So let me just get to mine. I think that those guys trust each other. Those guys believe in each other and know that they can individually get the job done that they need to do. And I think when you do that, then you collectively are moving the needle forward. And I think those guys are going to go out there and just going to play football they've done all year. And I think when they do that, they're going to follow the lead. I think Wusu overall is going to have a really good game. I actually got to hit him up and let him know that he's going to have to get the guys going. I know sometimes he likes to kind of sit back because he's a ball player. He's similar like me as far as not talking as much, but just going out there and play ball. But I think this particular game, he's going to have to let the guys know that, hey, I can carry you guys. Hey, in the linebacker room, I'm going to get the tone set, and you guys come back and follow me, and let's get a win and get out of here. And I think that they're able to do that as a linebacker crew. It's going to be a big difference making this weekend or whenever they play.
Julian Love, Te'von Coney, Jerry Tillery, of course, a little bit earlier. 3 Notre Dame defensive stars, 3 alums that we are incredibly proud of here at the Alumni Association. Gentlemen, thank you again for being here today.
Thank you.
For having us.